Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the story of DeepSeek. It's a Chinese AI model that basically came out of nowhere and sent this trillion-dollar shockwave through the entire tech industry. And to really get a grip on its impact, we've got to start with the day the panic kicked off. Okay, so let's rewind the clock to January 28th, 2025. It started off like any other day, right? But it ended in, well, a full-blown financial panic. In just a matter of hours, a jaw-dropping $1 trillion in value was just gone, wiped from the U.S. stock market. I mean, think about that number. 1 trillion, with a T. It was a seismic event, and it sent investors and the biggest names in tech absolutely reeling. And the reaction? It was instant. Commentators were just stunned, calling it an absolute bloodbath. Seriously, the market hadn't seen a tech-driven hit this big in years. So what could possibly cause a financial earthquake of this magnitude? I mean, was it a bank failure? A new war? Nope. It was a piece of software, a totally revolutionary new AI model that came out of China. So let's meet the model that's at the very center of this whole storm, DeepSeek R1. And you got to understand, this wasn't just another competitor in the ring. No, this was a complete game changer that challenged the entire foundation of the Western AI industry. And this is where you can really see just how disruptive DeepSeek R1 was. I mean, look at this comparison. It offered performance that was right on par with the absolute best US models. We're talking top-tier reasoning, math, and coding. But here's the kicker. It was completely free to use. And on top of that, it was open source, the total opposite of OpenAI's closed-off approach. And get this, it was reportedly developed for a tiny, tiny fraction of the cost. So, no surprise here, the response from users was just massive. People flocked to this powerful, and did I mention free, alternative. DeepSeek just skyrocketed to the #1 spot in Apple's App Store, blowing past established giants like ChatGPT. Okay, so all of this just begs a huge question, right? How did a company that was relatively unknown pull this off? How did they achieve this incredible level of performance and efficiency and seemingly do it out of nowhere? Well, the answer comes down to some really, really clever design choices. So the first piece of the puzzle is a technique called mixture of experts, or MOE for short. Now, instead of trying to be this one single all-knowing brain, like trying to be Einstein, Shakespeare, and Picasso all rolled into one, DeepSeek acts more like a university. It has different departments, all specialized in different subjects. And the way this works is just brilliantly efficient. When you ask it a question, the model doesn't have to fire up its entire massive network. Instead, a little part of the AI acts like a router, and it sends your query to the small, specific part of the network that's actually trained to handle that kind of thing. This saves a just immense amount of energy and computing power. And that's not all. They combine this with a process called distillation. You can think of it like a master chef teaching an apprentice, right? The bigger, more powerful AI model passes down all its knowledge, creating a smaller, super focused model that performs just as well, but with way, way less effort. But as the world started to dig a little deeper into the DeepSeek story, well, things got a lot more complicated. That incredible debut was pretty quickly followed by a whole bunch of controversies and questions about some potential hidden costs. Yeah, so that initial wave of praise, it quickly turned into some really tough questions. Was that reported cost to build it for real? Was its training data, legit? And maybe most importantly, what was happening with all the user data? And about that headline-grabbing $5.6 million price tag, turns out it wasn't the whole story. In their own paper, the company admitted that this number only covered the final official training run. It completely excluded all the prior research and experiments. So the real cost? It's probably still much lower than its US rivals, but honestly, we don't know the real number. And then you've got this huge question of data privacy, which presents users with a really stark choice. On one hand, if you use the online service, everything you type, your chats, your files, even your keystroke patterns, gets sent to servers in China. But on the other hand, because the model is so efficient, you actually have the option to run it locally on your own machine, completely offline. And that gives you total 100% privacy. Now, all these controversies were really just one part of a much bigger picture. The release of DeepSeek wasn't just about one company's success. No, it signaled the start of an entirely new global race for AI dominance. People have been calling this event the Sputnik moment of AI. For years, the race was mostly between big US tech companies, but DeepSeek's launch just completely changed the game. It transformed the competition from a race between companies into a high-stakes technological showdown between nations, specifically the US and China. You know, this whole dynamic is a perfect modern-day example of a classic geopolitical theory. It's called Thucydides' trap, and it basically describes that dangerous tension that pops up when an emerging power, in this case China in the AI space, starts to challenge the dominance of an established power like the United States. And the ambition behind this whole project? It was laid out perfectly clear by its founder, Lian Wenfeng. He framed their goal not as some typical business venture looking for profit, but as a kind of national mission to push the boundaries of technology and to build an entire ecosystem around it. And all this leaves us with one final critical question to think about. This new era of hypercompetition, it's going to force AI to evolve faster than we've ever seen. And look, that could lead to incredible breakthroughs in medicine and science, but it also raises some really serious questions about security and the future of our jobs. What this new era is going to mean for all of us? Well, that's a story that's still being written.